Good morning, stampers and crafters. Welcome to Tina's Crafty Ink Spot. I'm Tina. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I wanted to share a card. It's a way to make a frame if you don't have die cuts. Now this, the slimline cards are all the rage right now. And I haven't been able to find online, which I'm sure there may be some, are dies that can create frames for us. I like this look on my cards. I like frames either white or a color. And I also want to show you on the background of this, all I had of the DSP that I wanted to use was the 6x6 DSP. Well, of course, that's not large enough for here. So I'm going to show you a couple ways that I did this, where I was able to create the designer paper background, utilizing the sizes that we have. And now this card came to mind because I have a good friend of mine. Her husband collects butterflies. And I thought, well, why don't I create a butterfly collection card? So this is what I had come up with. And what I used to make this is we have the butterfly Bijou designer paper, which comes in 6x6, which is, we're going to use some on the background. And then what I did here was I took out of the designer paper several different butterflies and just fussy cut them. But today I'm going to show you a little bit easier way. We can create the same concept without all this fussy cutting. And these little tiny butterflies to fussy cut were, a little bit of work. But, so, comes with this suite of products is the Butterfly Brilliance stamp set and dies. And some of the dies in here coordinate with the Butterfly Bijou designer paper. Now, as of this morning, and I apologize because I'd already set up to do this video, this suite of products, Stampin' Up! Has been having trouble keeping it in stock. It is so popular. I believe everything as of this morning is available in the suite. I'll put links below, except for this paper right now is out. And you're going to want to watch the store and try to watch for when it comes back in. This paper is amazing. Okay, so my apologies for that. But watch the store and you might want to check back. I will probably update either my Facebook business page when this comes back in stock. But in the suite of products is this Butterfly Brilliance set. And just so you know, why do I have two? Okay, well, the original set comes with this one-piece stamp of all these beautiful butterflies. Okay, and then it has the large coordinating die, sorry if I can pick it up, that cuts them all out. Okay, that's great. Plus this die coordinates with some of the designer series paper. Awesome. So you can cut out a bunch of butterflies at once. Now, as much as I think that's just amazing and awesome, it's also got, look at all these dies that come in this set. Amazing. These all individual though. So you have the individual die cuts. Well, I like butterflies and I can't get enough of them. So what I did is I bought a second set and I put my husband to work. And what I had him do was take a pair of wire snips. He has some really small wire cutters and he cut my dies apart for me. Now, it's a little difficult. He said it because Stampin' Up's quality of die metal is really good. So he had trouble cutting it, but all I told him was make sure that as long as he doesn't mess up these little die cut lines, we were good to go. And he did it. And anywhere that he cut it apart, he just took a little metal file and got rid of any sharp edges on there for me. Now, I can stamp my individual butterflies and die cut them. I thought it was a great idea. Because, you know, sometimes you don't want to die cut a whole bunch. So, that was just what we did. And so I also ended up with the second set of these, which is perfectly fine. And these, you can just cut your stamp apart with your scissors. You just want to be careful not to get into your stamped image, and you're good to go. So there we go. That's what I did. So I used this concept today for this card, and I took one of the dies that coordinated with one of the butterflies, and I die cut some of them out, and we have them die cut. Look at that. I want it all the same for the card I'm going to show you today. So that's how I ended up with those. Now, if you don't separate yours like this, and you die cut a bunch of them all the time, just get yourself a little, maybe one of the plastic, or not plastic, the clear envelopes, and put your extra die cut butterflies in an envelope with your stamp set. And you'll always have little extra butterflies here for use at a later time. That was just my little FYI tip for the day. But today's technique is more about how to create a frame when you don't have a die cut to do it. Okay? So what you're going to need is we're going to go ahead and we're going to stick with the concept of a slim line. Okay? So I got my basic white. Let me move this out of the way. And I want to create my slim line card base. And there's several different measurements that people use for their slimline cards. There's now mini slim lines. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I simply use 8.5 by 8. And that's going to give me a 4 by 8.5 slimline card. So all I'm going to do is take it on the long side, and I'm going to cut it at 8. Oh, can you hear my little girl crying in the background? She doesn't like closed doors. She can't handle rejection. Okay, so now we've got that cut at 8. I'm just going to move it right on to 4. And I'm going to score it. And I should have brought my bone folder, but I forgot to bring it over to the desk. There is your slimline card base. Now, depending on the size of frame you want, I usually just bring in a ruler. Okay, most matting or layering that you do is usually 1/4 inch smaller. Okay, and we can do that. So what we'll do is, if this is 8.5, then we need a piece of cardstock that is 8 1/4, and if this is 4, by 3 3/4. So we need 8 1/4 by 3 3/4. So we're going to do 3 3/4, and this is Calypso Coral because it's going to coordinate with my designer paper that I'm going to use for this. And on the back of any of your designer series papers, this card that comes with your designer papers is going to tell you all of the colors that are in that set of paper. So some people already know that, some don't. So we know that Calypso Coral's a coordinating color here, so that's what I'm using. So now we needed 3 1/4, or 3 3/4, pardon me. And we needed to make it a 1/4 inch shorter. So if this is 8.5, okay, then we need 8 1/4. Okay, so now I want to, so you'll see this fits here, okay, and gives you a nice little border. But what I decided to do, okay, this would be if you're not going to do, see where I wanted just a little bit of designer paper showing, okay? You don't have to do that, but I'm going to show you what I did. I cut my base that I already knew I wanted, but I wanted just a little bit more edge so that I could add some DSP, and I'm going to cut 1/8 off of both sides, okay? Off the long side and off the short side. Let me make sure. So on your cutter, beyond your cut line, you have your measurements in centimeters and inches. You also have it where it starts here in centimeters and inches. So your first line on this side, okay, we want to cut an 1/8 inch off. Or, you know what, I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch off. So let's cut a 1/4 inch, just for save's sake. So I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch off there, and I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch off here, okay? I should have probably explained this a little bit differently, but I'm kind of impromptuing this video because of a recent request. So now you have, when you lay it on here, you have a little bit more visual space for the designer paper you're going to show here. And you could do it different ways, but I'm just going to show you how I did this one. So now I want to create a frame out of this. So we want to determine how thick we want our frame. So on this one, I did a 1/2 inch frame, okay? So the easiest way to do that is take your paper, go to your 1/2 inch mark, okay, on this side. On your ruler here, that is part of your cutter, oops, I just threw some paper on the floor. If you look, there's also a ruler. It's kind of hard to show up on the camera here. There's also a ruler right on this cutter, okay? So what we want to do is we want to come down a 1/2 inch, and you can see by the center of your cutter here is a line, okay? If you're not really sure and can't really see close, maybe come a little farther down, okay? It's better to cut less than too much. So now we're going to line up our paper at the 1/2 inch mark, which is right there. We're going to come down a 1/2 inch, okay? Push your cutter down and cut. And now you're going to stop at the end of your card a 1/2 inch short. Now if this is 8, right here at the end, come up a 1/2 inch, and remember, follow the line. On each side of your cutting blade is a little tiny line, and that's going to tell you where you're at, okay? If you're not real sure, cut it a little short, because we can fix that easier than if we cut it too long. Okay, so you've got your cut there. Spin it, move your end of your card to a 1/2 inch. You can kind of now see where your 1/2 inch line is here. So line up your cutter line with that. Cut, come down within a 1/2 inch of the bottom. So you'll see it there. Stop, lift, okay. Now we're going to spin it again. And I was a little short there, but that's okay. So we're going to start at that line, line it up. We're going to come down within a 1/2 inch. And spin it the last time to a 1/2 inch. Okay, now you can see where I didn't cut all the way through. Now there's two things you can do there. You can either just put it back in the trimmer and trim it, or you can do like I do. I either use a straight edge, or I just stick my snips in there. And trim that last little bit. Oops. Now this one, you can tell my line went a little over, but kind of hard to not be standing and looking straight over it. Sorry, it's hard to grab it a little bit. So we're going to connect these two lines so I can get my hand in there. Sometimes if you have a straight edge craft knife, it's a little easier on a glass mat, but this will work. And look at there, you have your frame. Ta-da! Okay, so we dropped our card base on the floor, so we're going to pick that up. And there you have your frame. Okay? Now, if you had a large piece of designer paper, you could lay it over your card base like you normally would and add the frame. And a white insert if you wanted to. But here's what I'm going to show you, is what I did because I really wanted to use the 6x6 paper that was in the set. Okay, I really like this. But as you see, it's too short. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and lay my mat approximately where it's going to be on my card. Okay, and then I'm going to take my ruler, and if I measure from the edge of the card to about the center of my frame, you have about, I'm going to say you have about 5/8, which is just over a half. Okay, and you're going to have that all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some 5/8 strips. Let's see, which one do I want to use. Let's do this. So 5/8 is 1/8 over a half. Okay, so I'm going to line it up on 5/8. I'm going to cut some strips of that. I think we need one more. I'm going to do one more. Okay, so we have our 5/8 strips. I'm going to set this aside. So, my suggestion when doing these strips is to use glue. Unless you're really good with tape, if you use glue, you can kind of move it around on your paper. So we're going to take and we're going to add some glue to our, oops, a little much on there, to our strip. Just a real thin coat, you don't need a lot of glue. And when you use glue, that'll allow you to lay it on your card, and then you can move it around so that it's flush with the edges. Okay? So we're flush there. I'm going to take another little piece, and I'm just going to lay it there, butt it up, and I'm going to trim it just a little bit long, just so we have some overlap that we can trim off. I really liked this paper because it's kind of got that, you know, ink wash look to it. And now we'll just trim it off flush with the card base. Now I'm going to do the bottom strips. more there. Maybe this one will fit here. That'll fit right there. You kind of want to make sure the edge where it butts up has got glue on it so that it doesn't lift. Just butt it up against there. I'll trim that one off. Sometimes if you trim from the back side, you can see better. So as you can see, this is very quick. I'm gonna leave this one a little bit of flap. So I'm gonna cut it just a little bit long. I'm gonna lay it in place, and without pushing it down over the top of that one, I'm just going to trim it off, and it fits right in there. Okay, then we've got our last piece, should fit right in there. Yep. This is a good way to save on designer paper, so you're not, wasting a full sheet that's not going to be seen anyway if you're covering it up. I'll trim this one off. And there we go. And now, when we put our frame on, we have designer series paper behind it. Okay. Now, what I did for the butterflies for this one, where did I put them? Oh. So, on the original card, I used 3D crystal effects. Some of you still have some of the old style. And on this one, I used our shimmery crystal effects. And I did these beforehand so that they'd be dry by the time we did the video. But the shimmer on these and the shiny just kind of gives them a nice little pop. So let's add our frame. And to add our frame, I like to use the dimensional strips. Okay, so that way your frame is solid. It's not going to, have gaps that warp and so on and so forth. So I'm going to show you a trick when you're using these. So we're going to put them right in the middle of our frame, all the way across. Trim it off. I saved these little pieces. And let's add the next one. Now you piece in these little pieces if you want to. You can use them. And put these. And then a trick to make sure you line this up correctly when you're putting it on your card. Show you a little trick. We're gonna pull off the protecting strip. And you can get that little booger. And now, before you attach it, if you're really good and can just lay it down and stick it, no problems, you're better than me most of the time. But what I do is I add a really small amount of glue right over the adhesive of these. Now you can do this with dimensionals or anything else. And what this is going to do it's going to give you the ability to move this a little if you need to for lining up. So I'm going to take my frame, I'm going to get a basic idea where it goes, and then I'm going to plop it down, and with the little bit of glue on there I can shift it around to make sure it's square, and then press it into place. And there you go. And then we're going to take our little butterflies, which I keep seeming, oh, here we go. Okay, so now after you die cut these, you just take your, let me set the ones that are done over here. You're just going to take your Crystal Effects and go over the image. And you can use the point of the applicator to kind of smooth it out. It will smooth itself just a little bit, but just kind of spread it around with the tip of the applicator. And then just set it aside to dry. And we're going to do that right now where I don't stick my hand in it. Now I want my butterflies to have a little bit of dimension, so I'm going to kind of curl them a little, and then I'm going to put dimensionals under them. And I'm going to put 2 per butterfly, because I want the ends of the, when we lay them down, it's okay if the ends curl a little toward the card, because it'll look like they're popped up and kind of bent onto the card. So I'm just going to put 2 of these in the middle, which will also keep them from collapsing too much. Now, I usually take and I'll put 1 right in the middle. Just lay it there, and then I know where to line up my 2 on the side. Let me grab my tweezers. Sometimes if you use your tweezers, it gives you a little more visual where your hand's not in the way. So let's line him up right in the middle there. Take our next one, and we know this one's kind of in the center there. I'm just kind of eyeballing this. You could actually take a pencil and a ruler and mark yourself a real thin line right down the center if you wanted to. But I'm just doing it visually. And then put him right in the middle. Now I wanted a greeting, so what I'm using here is, let me see if I got the stamp set handy. There's a stamp set called Many Messages, okay, and it's got all these fabulous greetings in it. So what I did is I've stamped this a couple times. I've stamped it black on white, I've done some white embossing on black, I've done some white craft ink on black, and it's a full set of greetings, and then you die cut them out. Well, I had all these messages everywhere and greetings, so I found this at the craft store. It's a little compartment container, and I just put all my extra and my messages right in there, my greetings. So now I have a really quick go-to, hey, I need a greeting, what do we want to put on there, and it's already done, and I'm just going to add it to our card. So let's see, what do we want to put on this one? I'm thinking I kind of want to stay in the middle there. How about this one? So happy to hear your exciting news. Congratulations. Let's see how that fits on here. Now we could pick any number of directions to put, or places to put this. Where do we want it? Should we put it to the right? Should we put it in the center? Should we put it on the white? I think what we'll do is whatever we're going to do, we're going to use some dimensionals. And don't forget, don't skimp on your dimensionals. You know how I feel about that. We're going to add at least 3 dimensionals to this. And now we want to figure out where we want to put it. Now you could add all kinds of extra bling to this. I'm going to add this so it's kind of centered and right on the white. And there you go. It is done. There is your card. How fun is that? Anyway, go ahead and embellish this, add some ribbon, do whatever you'd like, but now you have a frame and it's popped up, gives your card some dimension. That's it. I hope you enjoyed today's class on making a frame and also utilizing your 6x6 designer paper on your larger slimline cards. I hope you enjoyed today's class. Thanks for joining me and have a very happy Stampin' Day.